everyone, welcome to Bickering Book Reviews. I'm Sarah,
And I'm Becky.
and today we're talking about Thorn Season by Kiera Azar. I got this to read off of NetGalley, but then I also saw the audio book arc, and I ended up just listening to it
I
through
downloaded
NetGalley.
both too, but I listened to it.
Yeah, and I feel bad, but I ended up just it was just easier for me to get through it as an audio.
Yeah. I did
Anyway,
better with fantasy as an audio.
I do like fantasy on audio. You're right. I don't know. Anyway. All right, so this book is about Alyssa, who is entering her 18th season, and as kind of part of her country's um, tradition, she should spend that 18th season at court. So she goes there, but she kind of goes there with a ulterior motive.
It's like her coming out season. Like, you know how like if you watch like Downton not well Downton Abbey or like Bridgerton, like they go get presented for their season, they're coming out. Like
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
my take, was she was a courtier and she was supposed to
yeah. Like, and I'm assuming to find a man, and somehow she's caught the king's eye, and so he really kind of wants to essentially make her his wife. But he's a cruel king. Especially because in this kingdom, the wielders, who are kind of like these magic people who have kind of these specters that can kind of invisibly move things. It's very vibe of like telekinesis. Anyway, in this kingdom, he kind of ferrets out where these wielders are and kills them. So Alyssa is at court to help find this missing artifact that's a compass that actually leads the hunters to find people who are wielders so that they can, basically find them and kill them. Um, so Alyssa is there to help kind of find this compass and basically get it into the right hands of, people who won't use it as a weapon. And she also has like an added bonus layer of wanting to find this because she is a wielder herself. Nobody knows that she's a wielder. She hides it and keeps it tamped down, very securely. But she certainly wants to make sure that number one, she doesn't get found out, and that number two, people aren't continued to be hurt. And it's just a lot of like palace intrigue and like mysteries and figuring out like where, who's on what side, like who you can trust, who you can't trust, and it's a very deadly game, and it's that's really kind of all we're focusing on. Yeah.
So I you did hit on something. So I do feel like the king and his motivations is different than you mostly see in these books. His motivations towards her. I feel like that was very different than you see, but other than that, to me, this book was very similar to a lot of other books I've read. And I'm at this
You
point, I'm
know,
like, you need to stand out.
I don't necessarily, I don't know. I think it was pretty good. I think it was pretty solid as far as I think she has villain backstory and villain, well, not just backstory, but like villains on lock. Like I think she can build a villain because like the king was like I don't know, he was like a believable villain. Like while he bordered like mustache twirling like villain, he was like cruel in a way that like I could understand. And like not really, I don't think this gives anything away, but like Alyssa's story could really be primed for creating a villain. Like, and it would be believable if she became a villain.
But like as I was listening to it, I there were a couple times I'm like, but why are the Spectre powers so bad? Like I'm like, are people and I don't feel like they explain that. Like I'm like, did people there was like an uprising and stuff like that, but and I get that maybe it's just basic othering, but I'm
Well,
that
I
kind of
mean, there is
feels
basically other, but no, I think they're stronger because you can like invisibly like kill somebody. Like you can,
but was that a problem? Like, did that happen? Were there
it's
assassins?
like, but it did like because that's what they were doing, and like she would like trip people with it, and they would like fall like yes she's a kid like but like you could legitimately kill somebody and nobody would know who did it.
And I guess for me, like the world building just wasn't there because like I do have these questions and this is probably going back to how much I love things like the selection, which maybe that's an issue with me. I felt like she's at court and like it's supposed to be this like grand like ballroom and the gowns, and I don't feel like that got described. Like I don't feel like pictures were not drawn, and I was disappointed. I'm like, there's a particularly a part where she's talking about what she's wearing to go to this special event in court, and it's like I'm wearing a dress. And I was
No,
like, "Well,
I do
details, details."
yeah, I do get your point as far as like world building or like scene building. Like, yeah, there could have been more work done with that. There
And
really
it's
could have.
not a short book.
No. No, but I don't know. I think she excelled in other places. You're right. World building not as great, but I think she excelled in other places. I think the thing that really didn't sit well with me was just like the Garrett like best friend from young age, like his trajectory. Like that wasn't really believable, and like the the scaffolding that needed to happen earlier on in his character development didn't happen to make it understandable about how you get from here to there.
When I was trying to figure out like what are we trying like is this a love triangle? Is this a love square? Who is the love interest? And I kind of feel like the book didn't make that clear because there were a couple options, but then you would get close to it and then like no, and
Well, and I think what would have resolved that had you done the right scaffolding for Garrett, right? Because then I think he really kind of confuses the whole thing. And I think had you done the right development with him in the beginning, it would have felt better.
like I said, it might just be where I'm at right now with books, have all the books I've read lately. I'm like, I want something different. I want something like spectacular and to take these like tropes and make it different. And to me this just felt very similar to other stuff. Like it's not there's nothing wrong with it. Like and if you haven't read a lot of other books, this is probably going to be like a great hit it out of the park. But for me, I was just like I wanted more.
I don't know, like in comparison to all the other books that I've been reading recently, like this was one of the better ones. Like this one I actually enjoyed reading. Now, granted, it did take until about 75% of the way for me to actually get invested and like want to know what happens next, but it did happen.
But did it feel surprising? Did it feel different than other things you've read?
No, it didn't. However, I feel like, and this gets into a larger conversation, that this book is the first in a series, right? So I don't like this isn't the end of the story, right? We're just the exposition. And so it's going to be kind of hard to know like where we're going. And I think this is not how it always used to be with fantasy books. Usually they were self-contained, and sometimes they would get a sequel and sometimes they wouldn't. So the authors would have to make sure that you'd have a fully contained story, and this is not a fully contained story.
No.
Sorry.
But like I said, and maybe we're leaving off like character development and stuff, but like I didn't find myself caring. We should just rate it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. So our rating scale starts with at the top with 5 unicorns, goes down to 2 unicorns. If we don't like it, it doesn't get a horn and is therefore a horse. Where are you?
I mean, I'm giving it a 3. It was solid, but like I said, to me, it didn't stand out.
Which is weird because like yours kind of sounds like on the lower end of the three, and I'm also going to give it a three because I just it doesn't feel like a four, but I think it was like solid, and like I wouldn't shy away from recommending this to like teen readers. Like it was good, and then like I think it would appeal to a wider age range too, right? Like there's not things in it that like would make it, or is there?
See, and
Am I missing? Am I forgetting something?
thinking because like there's these ideas of she caught the king's eye, and they people talk about like, well, you will have to bear him an heir and that kind of stuff. So depending on like what
But I
kid,
feel like that could go a little bit younger than a lot of these more recent fantasy
well, yeah.
books.
I mean, that's a whole other discussion that YA has been taken over by new adult.
Um, but anyway, anyway, I'm at a three. I think there's a wider appeal here than a lot of the fantasy books that have been recently coming out. I would be open to reading the second, like the sequels. So like I'm in a good place with this one. So this is Thorn Season by Kiera Azar.
We'll see you around. Bye.
Bye.